So, opening arguments began in the New York City criminal trial against Donald Trump today, and it feels like the real first day of trial. Last week we had jury selection, but today, they have their jury, they have their alternates, they had opening arguments, they cross-examined a witness. We're really getting into the thick of things. David Pecker was the man on the stand today. He was the CEO of the parent company of the National Enquirer, which was the paper behind the catching and killing of negative stories for Donald Trump in 2016 for his campaign. And that's all very significant. But for me, at least, I feel like the most significant news from today came from Donald Trump's own mouth. He does these rants during court, before, after, and sometimes during, where he goes out and he speaks to the cameras that are covering the trial. And inevitably, he says something that's either a complete lie or something that hurts his case. And you can kind of see his lawyers in the background like, oh my God, I cannot believe he just said that, because they're the ones who are going to have to clean up the mess. And I think that happened again today. There's two different clips I want to show you of Trump speaking to the cameras, and they fit the descriptions. One where he just straight up lies, makes a terrible argument in his defense in this case, and another where he's just completely contradicting the court's orders. So we're going to look at those clips, and then later we're going to talk about some Truth Social posts that he put out regarding a somewhat separate topic, but somewhat similar. You'll see what I mean in a minute. But before I show you those clips, make sure to subscribe down below. It goes such a long way. I greatly appreciate it. But now, here is Donald Trump trying, I guess, to argue in his own defense.
It was just at the last minute they decided to do it. It's a case that, if you're looking back, it goes back many, many years, 2015, maybe before that. And it's a case as to bookkeeping, which is a very minor thing in terms of the law, in terms of all the violent crime that's going on outside as we speak, right outside as we speak. But this is a case where you pay a lawyer, he's a lawyer, and they call it a legal expense. That's the exact term they used. Legal expense in the books. And another thing that wasn't even said was we never even deducted it as a tax deduction. So that takes a whole vast, most people want to deduct everything. We never even took it as a tax deduction. But they called a payment to a lawyer a legal expense in the books. They didn't call it construction. They didn't say you're building a building. It called a payment to a lawyer because, as you know, Cohn is a lawyer, represented a lot of people over the years. Now, I'm not the only one. And wasn't very good in a lot of ways in terms of his representation, but he represented a lot of people.
So, it's just such a bad argument. He's saying in this clip, he's like, I paid Michael Cohen, who's a lawyer, so it's a legal expense, right? I gave money to a man who's a lawyer, who's my lawyer, so it's a legal expense. It must be. It's like, just because you pay a lawyer does not mean that those funds actually went toward legal expenses, toward services that he actually gave toward you in the legal field. And the retainer that they had with Michael Cohen was certainly not real. So his entire argument is like, yeah, I paid a lawyer, so it must be a legal expense. I'm perfectly innocent, exonerated. But there's obviously so many different facts in this case that completely contradict his narrative. Matter of fact, a lot of these facts are coming from people who work with him, loyalists to him. Like, what about this? Rudy Giuliani, the crazy lunatic that he is, confirmed that Trump repaid Michael Cohen the $130,000 for the reimbursement for Stormy Daniels. Rudy Giuliani confirmed this, that Trump knew it was for Stormy Daniels and that he reimbursed Michael Cohen for it. It was not a legal expense, but rather it was some hush money payments. So, what happened there? I thought it was your own guys are confirming that this was not just paying money to a lawyer for legal fees or legal services. Matter of fact, it was quite the opposite. And on top of all this different evidence, we have actual audio that was published in July 2020, all the way back, I believe, in 2018. CNN published a recording of a phone call between Cohen and Trump in which they discussed the payments made to McDougal before it was made. This is another person who Donald Trump made hush money payments to, McDougal. she was someone who worked with Playboy and things like that. He made a payment to her as well surrounding hush money. So I'm not 100% sure what he's getting at here. The evidence against him is overwhelming. They have audio, they have documents, they have email chains, they have text messages, they have his own guys confirming that he did X, Y, and Z for these reasons. So I'm not really sure. I'm at a loss for words as to what Donald Trump is attempting here. And on top of this, final thing I want to show you in relation to the claim that Donald Trump just made. This has been investigated. Some of these documents have been released in connection to the federal investigation to everything that took place with Donald Trump and the hush money payments. And this is from the Associated Press. Some of these documents that were released cite records showing Trump spoke on the phone with Michael Cohen at least 5 times between October 8th and October 28th as Trump's campaign rushed to keep a lid on tales of his alleged misconduct in the closing weeks of the campaign. And in the second paragraph, you'll see that, Trump had some phone calls with Cohen, and Hope Hicks was on the phone, who is now a witness at this trial. And some of these phone calls included David Pecker, the guy who is in charge of catching and killing stories. So, the evidence just tells a completely different story than the one that Donald Trump is trying to tell us. Again, obtained emails, audios, his own guys, all of these different people have confirmed that, yeah, this wasn't just a legal expense for a lawyer, which already doesn't make sense. It was obviously something more sinister and a cover-up of some of the stories that Donald Trump didn't want to get out. But I just find it so funny that he is sitting there with a straight face saying, yeah, I paid a lawyer, so it must be a legal expense. Like, if you pay a doctor, does that mean it's automatically a medical expense? If you pay an electrician, is it all automatically like a home fixing expense? No, obviously not. There could absolutely be a cover-up of a crime, and that person might just happen to be a lawyer, happen to be a doctor, happen to be an electrician, right? So it's just like that's pretty much the theme with Donald Trump. Once you look at his arguments surrounding his own cases, you kind of break it down one by one. You see that, like, wow, this actually makes absolutely no sense. Pretty consistent theme with Donald Trump, but that's just the first clip in one of his little rants he gave outside of the courthouse today, or at least outside of court. Another clip I want to show you is, as I mentioned, Trump just directly contradicting the court's orders. He he spoke to the cameras about Michael Cohen, who is a key witness in this case. We all know that he's a key witness in this case. His lawyers know that he's a key witness in this case. And it seems like he violated his gag order. So take a look at that clip there.
Now, when are they going to look at Pomerantz and what Pomerantz did? Because that's bad stuff. And when are they going to look at all the lies that Cohen did in the last trial? He got caught lying in the last trial. So he got caught lying, pure lying. And when are they going to look at that? Now
yeah, for 20 seconds straight, Donald Trump is doing all of his hand motions, the accordion, and he's just slamming one of the witnesses against him. Now, I don't know if you caught his lawyer's face on the side there. I'm going to throw up a picture of it. That is not a happy man. That is someone who knows his client is messing up right in front of his face and he can't do anything to stop him because it's Donald Trump. That is not a happy guy. I don't care what anybody tells me. He is having a bad day when he heard that. But aside, that is absolutely a violation of the gag order. The gag order is very clear against Donald Trump in this case. That he can't attack witnesses. He knows that Michael Cohen is a witness, so he should be held in contempt of court. We already have all of these different violations of the gag order, and that hearing is upcoming, so keep an eye out for that, of course. But you can't just go calling witnesses liars. You can't do that, especially when they're, aside from a gag order being in place, you can't do that generally, but especially when there's a gag order in place, you can't do that. That's an absolute violation of the gag order, and I am 100% confident that the district attorney, his team, and their fantastically talented team of prosecutors are already adding that to the list of what he should be sanctioned for. They originally sought around a $3,000 fine for 3 violations of the gag order, $1,000 each. But I have a feeling that at this upcoming hearing, they're going to request significantly more. And as we all know, that if he continues to violate the gag order, he continues to push the buttons of the court and push the limits of the law, he's going to go to jail. And he should go to jail, as any other defendant would if they were violating the gag order to this degree. So that was all of the chaos, I think is a good way to describe it, that came out of Donald Trump's mouth out front of court today. But as I mentioned previously in this video, Donald Trump also put out a couple of statements on Truth Social, somewhat relating to this case and somewhat just his usual ramblings. So here's the first statement he put out, saying the Supreme Court will address the historic question of presidential immunity on Thursday, but unfortunately, I will not be able to attend. The highly conflicted judge in the Manhattan DA case, Soros-backed Alvin Bragg, in brackets, has prohibited me from attending. Without presidential immunity, the president cannot function as his political opponents will blackmail and extort him. Yada, 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 the usual talking points. And we've heard this one before where Donald Trump is like, I can't go to this because the court and the judge won't let me. And it's like, well, buddy, don't commit crimes then. You're every other defendant. Do you think that if you or I walked out on the street and committed a crime, that we could say to the judge, like, hey, you know, I got this Broadway show I'm going to soon. I got this musical I got to go to. Can you let me off? The judge would look at us like, we're crazy, rightfully so. Donald Trump doesn't get to go, hey, I have this like BS argument in front of the Supreme Court on this day. Can I please go? And expect to be released. That's nonsense. He must be treated like every other defendant. And I'd say I'm pretty happy with the way that Donald Trump has been treated, at least in the trial portion of this, where the judge has been no nonsense, kind of putting Donald Trump down for intimidating potential jurors and whatnot. And I think this was the right move as well, not letting him go to D.C. He just doesn't want to be in the courtroom, right? That's his entire thing. So that's one of the statements, again, on the topic of presidential immunity and just making the terrible argument that the judge is at fault. It's like, please spare me. But this other statement he put out also talked about presidential immunity. He said, if a president does not have immunity, and this is all caps, the court will be, quote, opening the floodgates to prosecuting former presidents. An opposing hostile party will be doing it for any reason all of the time. And I'm actually okay with this. And what I mean by that is that there should be the gates opened that if someone commits a crime, then they should be held accountable. That is a gate I'm okay with having open. Right? If Joe Biden commits a crime, if Barack Obama commits a crime, Bush, Clinton, Bush Sr., Reagan, whatever, they committed crimes, they should be held accountable. They should be like any of us. You don't get to just commit crimes and then say, hey, I'm president, wrap it up, everybody, I'm good to go. It's like, no. We don't have kings in this country. We don't have dictators. If someone breaks the law, they're not saved by their title, especially when it's outside of the realm of the presidency, which all of this alleged conduct is outside of the realm of the presidency. So, you know, his whole also like fear-mongering, like, oh my God, every president ever is going to be prosecuted by the other side. It's like nonsense. It's just nonsense. There's no president in history who has acted in the way that Donald Trump has. His conduct is unprecedented in the dangerous nature. I'm not worried about this. I'm not worried that every president ever is going to be prosecuted because nobody has come to the levels that Donald Trump sits at with his conduct. But, you know, that's just one of Donald Trump's rants, just what he does every single day. He sits at Mar-a-Lago. He goes on Truth Social. He makes up a new lie, and then he calls it a wrap. He goes back inside, maybe takes a nap. And final thing I want to say again, I won't make a whole segment out of it, but Donald Trump fell asleep in court again today. Sleepy Donald. Share it everywhere. All right, everybody. I'll leave the video there. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to subscribe down below. It goes such a long way. Also, drop a like on the video. Comment. Let me know what you think. Share the video with anybody you think needs to see it. And as always, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.